So, welcome everyone. Let us just continue a little bit of in-gathering, invoking Mother's presence, Sri Aurobindo's presence. And getting in touch with the force, light, peace that is always around us, in us. Making the mind still, quiet, receptive, and fully present. So, last time we were reflecting, reading upon this bit, weakness of the nervous envelope, and we were also reading it from somewhere else, another anecdote where it was shared what is this nervous envelope and how do we make it weaker, how to strengthen it, and not to pierce holes all the time with our negative suggestions and all the interpretations of the mind and engaging in disturbing emotions and thoughts, which makes it weaker and makes like pierces hole in the nervous envelope. So this was what we've already touched upon last time, and today we are going to read and reflect upon this one. How the forces of illness attack. So this is integral healing, page number 48 in this PDF, maybe a different page in the hard copy. Yeah. So anyone who feels ready, please go ahead and read it out aloud for all of us. How the forces of illness attack.
How the forces of illness attack. Sri Aurobindo, attacks of illness are attacks of the lower nature or of adverse forces taking advantage of some weakness, opening, or response in the nature. Like all other things that come and have got to be thrown away, they come from inside. If one feels them so coming and get the strength and the habit to throw them away before they can enter the body, then one can remain free from illness. Even when the attack seems to rise from within, that means only that it has not been detected before it entered the subconscious. Once in the subconscious, the force that brought it rouses it from there sooner or later, and it invades the system. When you feel it just after it has entered, it is because though it came direct and not through the subconscious, yet you could not detect it while it was still outside. Very often it arrives like that. forcing its way through the subtle vital envelope, which is our main armor of defense. But it can be stopped there in the envelope itself before it penetrates the material body. Then one feels some effect, example, feverishness or a tendency to cold, but there is not the full invasion of the malady. If it can be stopped earlier, or if the vital envelope of itself resists and remains strong, vigorous, and intact, then there is no illness. The attack produces no physical effect and leaves no traces.
Yeah, thank you. So we can take any thoughts, reflections.
Yeah, while I was reading, we keep feeling, right, that how far we have come, right? We have come, it feels very strongly that we have come very far from where we can be, like for each and everything, almost, I would say. And now talking about medicine or the way we perceive medicine, or those huge concrete hospitals that are coming up every, I don't know, every month, every week, which we take as sign of advancement of our race. And yet here, what all they are doing is they are just trying to keep up the material, right? Like just trying to put pills to support, to fight the diseases when it is in the physical. And here, when it's saying that, the disease forces its way through the subtle vital envelope, which is our main armor of defense. And it can be stopped there in the envelope itself before it penetrates the material body. That again is a very strong proof that of all the things we are doing wrong in our ignorance, like not that it's just like we just don't know, like these things which probably our grandparents, or at least a great grandparents know. I remember my dad sharing with me that when my grandfather used to be unwell, he actually used to take like a retreat. They had a small room in Faridabad at that time from Delhi. So he would travel alone. They used to walk, like it was 3 hours walk. He would actually say, pack my things, give me some food. And he would go there for 10-15 days alone and come back when it's free. And when they used to ask him, what do you do, as children, they said, I do japa. I just go there, do japa, and that heals me. So that japa is helping with that, I mean, I'm not saying the sequence of events, but there is this thing which is beyond the material, which they sensed. A lot of them sense, a lot of them didn't, and I guess that would be true today too. But if we were to believe this and actually start working on this, and obviously, right, everything begins with us. How different things can be in, say, a decade, right? If more of us were to practice this and live it. Yeah, that's.
Uh, while I was listening to Taru, I just got reminded of my own childhood. And I have felt that our attitude as individuals towards illness, towards medicine, towards doctors, has also changed so much over the period of time. also the medical science, the way doctors would approach illness or patients, and the way they would handle has also changed a lot over the period of time. As a little child in my own house, I remember when we used to fall sick, simple things like with change of weather, you have fever and whatever. My father, who was a doctor, he would not, give us medicine right in the very first day. He being a pediatrician, he could, but he would not, and we had kids would just not like it. So, fever, pain, and why Papa is not giving us medicines, And I remember very distinctly that day one, day two, he used to say that this will all go away. So just mom used to just put some cold sponging. It wasn't to a level, because he was a pediatrician, he would know that he wouldn't wait to a level where it would, become an emergency situation. So, but yet, and with minimal medicines, he would practice his own, he would do his own medical practice. And in those times, a doctor was considered good who wrote few medicines on his prescription. कम दवा लिखते हैं. और अभी हमारी ही अप्रोच कैसी हो गई है? We want very quick results. And when we go to a doctor, and if we obviously everybody cannot know the side effects of medicines or what kind of medicines, only a doctor would know. So if he's writing medicines, and if you're getting relief in a day or two, you think it is very effective, the doctor is very good. And I mean, I'm not saying everybody has this approach, but somehow, because in today's times we are so impatient about everything, we are so goal oriented, we are so want quick results in everything, even in our illness we want to be, of course we all want to be fine, but sometimes we don't have time to allow our own body, to listen to our own body and allow it to heal. We don't have time for all that, and because we are not aware of it also, let's say many of us are not aware of it. I'm not talking about there are many who are, but yet in this world there are many who aren't, and all we want is quick results. So we go and we take pop-up medicines and then we start working, which is also in some ways is fine. But I think our own approach has changed, and with so much of intervention now in medical science, from minimal intervention to so much, it's sad. And I am deeply saddened by seeing to what level it is stooping down just for commercial benefit. And so right, Taru, that the way hospitals the coming up everywhere with multi-speciality, in a way we feel it is good. It is a sign of our progress, but knowingly or unknowingly, I don't know what we are creating, what kind of energy. And it's all a center for commercial. I mean, I'm talking about it because of a very recent uh, experience that I went through in a family, and it was almost as if I, this was with my sister, and as if it was some divine grace which saved her from going through what she would have gone through. And though I was present there, and it was almost next to an OT, and about to go into the operation theater for a very minimal thing, and then something happened, and I took a decision, nothing doing, we are going back home. And not even just in a day or two, everything went fine, What do you do? What do you do? And who is to, even if I, go on advertising this on social media and talk about it and badmouth it, I wonder if it is going to bring about a change in the very consciousness of that person who is a doctor himself, knew that he's talking to somebody who is, to me, arguing. We are trying to not argue. We are trying to reach to an amicable situation. And if that can happen to me, I wonder how anybody who is a layman would ever take a decision of not allowing such a rigorous intervention, because one wouldn't know, because if you're told this is it and you have to undergo, and if you don't, this will happen with all those big medical terminologies, what would you do? You would give in to, because that is the person who is whom you have trust, and you have gone with that trust. So I feel bad about that, and I don't know how we can change that. Yes, you've created a platform where we are discussing about this, and I'm glad that we can talk about it. And in some way, if this is going out, I think, yes, please, we all have our own body is the most efficient mechanism present within it. We don't listen to it. We are not patient enough. We don't have time in our life, because we are always in a hurry, always doing something, that whenever this body is demanding rest, maybe even through an illness, we don't listen to it. So just this thought, I don't know, if where it will take us, but it's just thought of sharing my insight as I heard Taru. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you, what you said. Very few doctors of classical times have remained, in a handful, I would say. And we would be lucky if we are in safe hands of somebody whom we trust. Also, over a period of time, I think the trust has been transferred from the doctor to the pills. And that is why we see the behavior the way we see today. If I pop in pills, I will become fine. So the shifting of faith, as Dr. Alok Pandey says, from person to pills has happened. And on the other side, I was also thinking, since we were talking at that when this article was going on, and in context of the earlier one, the nervous envelope, I wonder doctors have a very strong nervous envelope, because I have rarely seen doctors falling ill. They are so strong when they deal with patients. Part of it probably is because the way they see this as a profession, so probably emotions are far removed uh, when a patient approaches them, unless we should see how a doctor himself gets sick and treats himself or herself. What I have heard and seen is they have to take help of the other doctor. They cannot completely find a remedy because they cannot see themselves objectively like the other person. So I mean, this is just the thoughts that cross my mind. So I wonder how they keep themselves healthy and so strong, and having so strong a nervous envelope that when they hear of new diseases, illnesses, they don't let it penetrate their armor. Or yeah. So just another thought from the other side of the patients. Yeah.
Can I say something on this?
Yeah.
So yeah, so because I have walked this journey,
Uh-huh.
so when you say that doctors themselves don't fall ill, well, that's not always true. They do. And when you say that when they fall ill, then they have to go to other doctors to get themselves treated. Well, that depends upon the kind of illness. For minor things, all of us can, I mean, the doctors also can treat themselves, But if it is something major, something that requires an expert, view, then one has to. Like, for example, if somebody is not an orthopedician, one has a broken bone or something, he has to go to. Or if it requires surgery, then obviously you cannot operate on, even if one is a surgeon, cannot operate on one's own self. So it depends upon the kind of illness. Doctors also do fall ill. They are very much human. As you said, that when they approach other patients, how is it that they protect themselves? Maybe they have a very strong nervous envelope. Well, just being a doctor doesn't make your nervous envelope very strong, but every individual who is a conscious human being, who has walked the spiritual journey or not, I don't always say, because all of us are inherently spiritual human beings, whether we do external practices or not. In some way or the other, we are doing some spiritual practice, so where they are in their consciousness, that is different for everybody, because of the kind of work that they do, and it requires an intense many years of training and studying that prepares you for that journey, prepares you to finally, when you face a patient, you have to approach it with a certain attitude that comes naturally with that, having walked that journey, because it is a very, very long journey. And during that period, you are trained. And when you go through all that you go through every day, there is some kind of, your mind gets trained to see it, approach it in a certain way. And I think, yes, that strength that you get out of practice, that is with everything. So during COVID times, it's not that the doctors were not falling in. There were many who did. But yes, they were at that point of time, because they were coming forward and doing that big job that they were doing. I guess there was I'm sure there was some divine grace or something. And with the approach, with the kind of approach, the mindset with which they were working, that itself works in anybody's favor, that not only with doctors, with anyone. So just this little thing, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. When I mentioned this, what you call illness, doctor doesn't get ill. I didn't mean minor illnesses. I meant major ones. Yeah, they do have to, like what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the profession also trains them, maybe, yeah, in a very different way, as you pointed out. And that's, I was contemplating that, how professions have effect on our mind, and in turn, uh, many doctors that I have seen, they are generally very cheerful and very detached. But yeah, I could be wrong with certain exceptions there. But as you said, it depends on the human level. Yes, individual. So at the end of the day, yes, we all are human beings. So I agree with that also. Maybe case by case basis, but yeah.
Yeah, it's good. You have a very good idea in your mind about doctors. That's nice. And many are very cheerful because they are doing that job that they are doing. That's, I mean, all of us are doing in our own ways, not belittling anybody. But yes, but with that also comes a lot of pride and ego. And
Mm.
let me tell you,
Mhm.
because you are always approached in a certain way, it's so hard for some of us, many of us, I would say, it gets into the head. And to protect oneself from that is something not easy. And many do fall a trap of that.
Mm.
So whenever, in whatever profession you are, if there are accomplishments and you are being praised and applauded and clapped, uh, and if it somehow gets into your head, and then that makes you, that feeds on your ego, it strengthens your ego, and that's where the one has to keep a check. So uh, I guess there are so many shades to it. If we go on talking about it, it's endless. I have seen some of the doctors being very, very humble, and the very presence is so pleasing and charming and very humbling. And I have seen the other extreme too.
Yes,
Uh,
yes,
yeah,
you're right. That I'm referring to the humbleness is a bit of a different quality. Those not the top heavy people, but I was in general referring to cheerfulness. A person can have both ego or
yes,
become
true.
humble and have yet not let their cheerfulness go away. So those are two different qualities. But yeah, you're right. I've seen both and natural tendencies to kind of with top heavy doctors to kind of you know that interchange or that exchange is very different kind, and as a patient I wouldn't feel comfortable. I don't know, somehow. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, anyone else?
Ma'am, namaskar. In this passage, it says, forcing its way through the subtle vital envelope, which is our main armor of defense, but it can be stopped there in the envelope itself before it penetrates the material body. So, you know, that explanation is absolutely wonderful, but how does one recognize this? That, like, I would give like a practical example that right now I'm sitting here and I'm touching the table. So I'll assume that this table has some particles which can affect me in a bad way. So how can I be vigilant that, okay, I'm now touching this table. So how can I be vigilant that if there is anything there, that I'm going to stop it before it enters my body, or
Yeah,
even if it enters my body, I'm going to be ready.
beautiful,
So
beautiful. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Very relevant. I'm sure all of us will get benefit from this. So, masters in previous times have said that whenever you want to commune with the subtle within us, the inner world, you have to shut doors of the senses. In Gita, they use the example of how a tortoise, it kind of shells itself, like all the legs and the neck and everything goes inside its shell. So they say that like this, you commune with your inner being. So this is one of the reasons why in the beginning Taru was sharing that why we don't actually spend time here rather than relying completely on medical, hospital, whatever, And that is actually all the things that happen in the material nature. They are actually a manifestation of my state of consciousness. Because I don't believe in myself, and the moment something gets wrong, I run to something outer, to in order to set it right. That's why there are in every gully and nukkad there are hospitals. And that's what Taru was sharing in the beginning, that it is considered as, see how the place is developing. Gurgaon has 10 hospitals, so we take it as a like a pride, but parallelly it shows that this is what the demand is. This is what most of us are seeking. Now, most of us, why are we seeking that? Because we are too scattered in our consciousness. What you were sharing, that how do I get to know that it's entering my nervous envelope? Now, Kabirji uses the example of that there is as if there is a palace, there is a fort, and there is no guard who is sitting at the fence of that fort. So what happens, for rather in some examples he uses that as if you have a farmland in which you are sowing crops, and because there is no fence, nobody is sitting on the border, what happens? All the deers and everything, animals, they come in, barge in and eat up all the crops because there is no guard. Where is the guard? The guard is so busy looking at everything else, smoking his cigarette, maybe drinking himself out, talking to strangers. The guard has no time. So this is why too much of externalization, too much of remaining engaged in our sensory input, what I see, what I hear, who said what to me, who did I interact in the morning, who am I interacting with right now? Oh, so important, so important. Who is the guest arriving? So we are so occupied in the sensory world, grosser sensory world, what we can touch, feel, sense, that we have no idea of what is happening in the nervous envelope, what you were sharing. So the very important baby step, the first step that we have to take is that we have to withdraw into ourselves from the grosser sensory world. so that I become aware of the subtle sensory world, which is the nervous envelope. So the guard, when one day decides that no, I engage too much with everything, let me sit at the fence today. Let me see who comes and eats my crops. So he will sit that day on the fence. He will maybe take a tour all around the fence. Somebody may be calling from the other side, but he would not go. He would say, no, I have to be here at the fence. Right? So we are at the fence of our being. We are sitting, vigilant. Usually we are not here. Where are we? We are lost in thoughts, feelings of past, future, present commentaries, all that we engage in. All of us know. What I think about that person, what I think about myself, all that, wherever we go. But right now, if I want to know my nervous envelope, I will have to sit at the fence. Waiting and watching and waiting and watching and waiting and watching. That's why witnessing aspect is considered so important. Just waiting, just watching, just waiting, just watching. And then I will see a thought entering. And that thought is the animal which enters and eats up my crops. But usually I am so scattered that it enters and I engage in it, and at 2 hours I am engaging in it, going into the storylines. I have no clue about the crop, the farmland. And the farmland is our inner sanctity. Our nervous envelope is part of that farmland. So if what you were saying, that how do I become aware that something is entering? This is how I become aware. That I sit at the fence. I stay as awareness. I stay as the presence of consciousness, looking at each and every ripple of the thought. Nothing goes by unattended. I'm not busy. I'm not occupied. The only duty that I have is to sit at the fence of my being. That is how I become available to, the nervous envelope. And then we see the strangers entering, and then with the discernment, which is a parallel aspect of that witnessing, we will know, okay, this is a stranger, this is not to be entertained, and this can come. This is a friend. This thought, this feeling, it can come, but not everything just all the time. So I may remain empty. I will say, okay, today 10 things came, but 10 of them, all of them were just non-beneficial, harmful. So I did not engage any of them, did not let them enter at all. And it is empty. Your crops are protected, your farm is protected, your peace is protected, the nervous envelope is protected. Why our nervous envelope is not protected? Because we are scattered in our thoughts, feelings, past, future, present commentary. We are just scattered. That's why in Mother's words we hear so much about ingather the threads of your consciousness, so that we can sit on the fence and guard vigilance. What comes, what doesn't, and what japa that we were talking of in the beginning. What do I do when the guard is sitting on the fence? Either it can just sit, but we have a problem. Our problem is that we slip into thoughts and feelings too quickly. So what do I hold as an anchor? Japa can be an anchor. So I'm sitting on the fence as a guard, wearing my dress, ready for the job, and what I'm saying, ma 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 ma. If I stop in between, which I will stop, thoughts and feelings and ripples will come. And in that time, I'll just watch them and allow entry only to those which are helpful, expansive, non-limiting, rather than breaking my nervous envelope. Yeah, please go ahead.
Ma'am, so it's a very beautiful example of a guard, outside a fort. So if my body is a fort and I have this guard standing there all the time, and let's say that at one point I have managed to silence all the thoughts and being in a different state of mind and just being in the present. But now I'm working, I'm having three screens in front of me. Then I'm having a call from my house. Then and I have my dinner. I'm eating my dinner. So I'm multitasking. Like, although I'm doing one thing at a time, I'm still multitasking. So During this multitasking, should I constrain like should I put a small portion of my brain towards japa, or is there any other way that I can, because even though if I'm in the present, there are so many n number of things I'm handling. So how can I still be vigilant while also taking care of other things?
Yeah. See, somebody asked the mother, when I'm playing lawn tennis, then I'm not able to remember you because I'm too occupied with where to, hit the ball and how to place the racket. And mother said that very simple. In the beginning, you can't do that. It's impossible that you can do the japa and also play the racket. It won't happen. So she says, in the empty pockets of time, and we all know that we have infinite number of empty pockets of time, no matter how busy a person I am. We all have. We all have. We may fool ourselves, but we have. So whenever we have those empty pockets of time, we cultivate that parallel consciousness of japa or a witnessing stance. Both are okay. Both are doing the same thing. That there is a part of you, as you said, there is a part of me which is just present as awareness or present with the mother. Although there are many parts which are engaging everywhere else. But this part is also, see, that everywhere else is important. In front of me, there are 3 screens. All 3 screens are important, very important. My mother calls, very important. So that's how I have to say, this japa is very important for me. इसको हम सबसे लास्ट में क्यों रखते हैं? Why to put the japa the last? Oh, very important, very important. Oh, I can also do the japa maybe, 10th number. And that is how my life is run. But when I give japa the first number, see, that can also happen. And then there are second screen, third screen, first screen, mummy's phone, papa's phone, everything will be taken care of. So mother says that first you cultivate this parallel consciousness in empty pockets of time. Not while you are playing lawn tennis, because then you will fool yourself. But then parallelly, as that becomes more and more important for me. Why? Because either I'll fall in love with that japa or I'll see the benefits of it and cultivate it. Because we'll see that it's so peace giving and I just enjoy it. So because of that enjoyment and delight in the japa, I will make it most important. And then slowly she says, then it will become like a parallel consciousness in you. फिर हम ये नहीं सोचेंगे कि अच्छा ये भी करना है, ये भी करना है और जपा भी करना है. नो, जपा तो करना ही करना है. उसके वो जो ब्रीदिंग की तरह हो गया ना, वो तो आपके लिए है ना. तो मैं ये सोचता हूँ, अरे मल्टीटास्किंग में ये स्क्रीन भी देखनी है, वो स्क्रीन भी देखनी है, अरे सांस भी तो लेनी है, सांस तो चल रही है, वो तो सबसे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है ना. सो लाइक दैट व्हेन जपा बिकम्स आवर ब्रेथ, एंड हु विल गिव दैट इंपॉर्टेंस टू जपा? आई. अभी मेरी ब्रेथ क्या है? अभी मेरी ब्रेथ वो सारी चीजें, तो फिर वो इंपॉर्टेंस लेती है. When that becomes so important that everything else is secondary in front of japa, तब क्या होता है? उन चीजों पे भी the japa effects, and everything is delightful when we are with the mother. We all know, all of us have connection with the mother. We all know when we are with the mother, things are delightful, and that delight we can spill out in our work. All the screens and even mother's phone can have that delight. मम्मी सोचेंगे आज इतना खुश क्यों है? क्या हो गया? क्या खा लिया आज तूने? No? So yes, that's what mother suggests, just developing that parallel consciousness, first beginning with the empty pockets and then slowly developing it.
Thank you, ma'am. I
Thank
will
you.
work on it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, anyone else?
I think one thing that was coming to me when you were sharing is that everything has steps, right? Like here also it said that the best is if we can stop it before it enters. And yet, because it's mother and Sri Aurobindo, and there's kindness and they know who they are dealing with, they throw other things as well for support. They say that, okay, if you have not yet developed that realization of subtle physical, that mastery over it, that oneness with it, when it enters, with the basic signs like feverishness, cold. We have all experiences. Like I have multiple times experienced this. Okay, 3 people in the house are sick, say for example, and you feel something coming in. The thought can be, "Acha, mera bhi number aa gaya," or the thought can be, "I'm absolutely fine. This is nothing." Like that rejection that comes because I didn't even realize. We don't even realize that without our consent. I mean, we consent to it. If especially if there is sickness around, I consent that okay, अच्छा हाँ हाँ वो तो होना ही था. So obviously weather changing होना ही था. But if we recognize, when we start recognizing it when it enters, which is much 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 easier because body we resonate with, body we are comfortable with. Okay, the first sign, and if I just kind of जिसे कहते हैं कमर कसना कि वो something is coming and either rejection or just acknowledgement it's trying, just having that awareness कि something is entering, it has entered, where do I want to kind of, or just offering कि oh mother I see this coming. For each his own, but that would be the first step before that connection has been established. So, taking baby steps, and as we are more mindful, then these things start coming up more. They don't escape us, right? We don't realize we are sick till हम गिरने वाले हैं. Usually, that is a lot of times our case, especially when we have so many other things. So, being again, it's like being friends to ourselves, right? Like being with ourselves really, not just कि वो तो मैं हूं ही, but हूँ होते हुए भी नहीं होता, but अब हूँ और मुझे दिख रहा है कि ओके ये हो रहा है, वो हो रहा है. Being alive to what's happening in and around. I mean, it's weird that again we have we are here that ये भी बोलने की जरूरत पड़ रही है कि अपने साथ रहो और अपने साथ नहीं हूँ, but yeah, we have these.
I think that's why this Kabir uses the example of a drunk fence sitter. So we are sitting on the fence, we are supposed to be guarding, but we are drunk and drunk to our senses. है ना? तो जो भी इनपुट आ रहा है, सेंसरी इनपुट आ रहा है, आई एम जस्ट ड्रंक विद इट. माइंड इज इंटरप्रेटिंग, उसने मुझे ये क्यों कह दिया, अच्छा ऐसा ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए था, वैसा भी नहीं होना चाहिए था, ये होना चाहिए था जो मैं सोच रहा था, अच्छा कल ये हुआ था, परसों ये हुआ था. सो द guard who is to be alive actually, who is to be vigilant, he is drunk with the senses. And that is why Kabir would say, Kabir बैरी सबल है, एक जीव रिपु पांच. So he says, be aware of the enemy. Who are the enemy? Ourselves, He says, one being, and who are the enemies? There are 5 enemies. Add one more, 6th mental sense of interpretation. Ek jeev ripu panch. And that is why he would say they are enemies, although slowly as we refine them, they are not enemies anymore. But right now in ignorance that we live, drunk with the senses, they are our enemies. Because what you were sharing, that they don't allow us to be alive to our own self. We are not present. So he says, please wake up. That's why he uses the word wake up again. That why are you sleeping? Sleeping matlab awake to the senses. Unka sleep hai ki okay, you are all the time engaged in the senses. So when I stop being engaged in the senses, grosser senses, then I sit on the fence of my being, and then what you were sharing, the baby step can be taken in mindfulness, that okay, when anything is entering or after it has entered, then at least something wakes up and says okay, very interesting, rather than when we fall and realize that okay, something has happened. Yeah. Yes, the
Yeah, one thought that occurred to me while reading this was, here it is about illness, but then age has a factor in every human being. I mean, age and illness are somewhat related, but they are different also. What I mean by that is, as one ages, there are structural dysfunctions or structural weaknesses that develop in the body. Now, is this also caused? I'm just thinking, I'm a question actually. And what is this? This is certainly not illness, but the structural weaknesses that over a period of time that they develop. And not sure whether this enters through subtle vital, or meaning the nervous sheath, which is being referenced here. So any idea on anyone on this one? Just a question. So yeah.
Yeah, I have comment. I mean, of course, there is a process to the body, with the lives that we live, the stresses that we invite, the lifestyles that we have, there would be certain things that are coming. And yet, I do feel that I too, again, invite things to me. Like, some time back, I don't know, I guess once I turned 40 and all, I used, like, when I was probably sitting on the ground and I could jump up. And now when I couldn't jump up, I would take 2 seconds to stand up. I would joke with Monica that booty haddiyan, kind of just making a joke of it. And then I started saying it more and more. And then I realized that am I not making it more by saying it? Like I am smiling and saying it, but I'm giving them, okay, this is next. This is next. Oh, I know. Okay, I've crossed 40. And now, और क्या होने यही तो होने है. So I realized that I was inviting that thing in my life by just joking about it, or just, जो we say, ये तो मुझे पता ही है. This would, and here Mother is saying even dying is a habit, right? So that collective consciousness that after 40 the decline happens and this happens, it's all in me, living in me. And it's as if a knowing, भगवान है कि नहीं है वो तो एक सेकेंडरी चीज है, बट ये नोइंग है कि हाँ मेरी बॉडी में ये होता है, फिर वो होता है, फिर how we age and how it goes out. I don't know how, but I know that I can accompany the process, I can enhance the process, or I can be aware that what am I thinking, what am I believing, and that would, I am 100% sure, that would make a lot of difference into how I actually, I don't know, age or not age.
We just read the very first line. Monica, can we go back to the text that we were reading? Yeah. So the question that you asked, I feel from my understanding that the answer lies in the very first line. Here it says attacks of illness, but also let's say aging. If we read it like that, that it says that attacks of illness are attacks of the lower nature or adverse forces. So adverse forces are one thing, lower nature is another thing. And I think all of us live in our lower nature. So we have a divine nature, which is our true nature, but we are living in our lower nature because we are identifying so strongly with our body, our thoughts, our personality, our mind. This we cannot stop. And since this we cannot stop, we have to perish, we have to die, to be born again, to rise above from our own lower nature. So every birth is given to us to evolve. And I guess we all are slowly, must be evolving, not everybody, but if we are consciously living, then somewhere we are working. And that is what his journey is, to complete the journey from being a human to being a total divine, divinizing, being total immortal. So till we live in lower nature, which means our limited thoughts, our belief systems, whatever we all know about that. So we have to die. So I just felt that this very first line is so, so, so profound. We are so full of ideas, emotions. We are in the grip of the gunas, whether tamo gun, rajo gun, sattva gun, or whatever, but we are not above that. So बहुत लंबी जर्नी है, बहुत काम करना है, बट अच्छा है कि एवरी डे वो जो एक मूवी देखी थी बहुत पहले जिसमें एक वर्ड यूज हुआ था बेबी स्टेप्स, पता नहीं किसकी, गोविंदा की, बहुत ही फनी मूवी थी बहुत पहले. एवरीथिंग वाज वेरी फनी अबाउट दैट मूवी, बट व्हाट हैज स्टेड विथ मी टुडे बिकॉज ही यूज्ड टू गेट सम पैनिक अटैक्स, एंड देन in that movie it was so, he was told that when you get it, you just calm down yourself and you just take baby steps. So as you actually start walking, like छोटा छोटा स्टेप लेके वो चलता था और फिर उसको ठीक सब फील होने लगता था. So till we are taking these little steps, I think कहीं ना कहीं हम अपने lower nature से higher nature पे move कर रहे हैं. कब पहुंचेंगे वहां ये तो पता नहीं, but I guess we should be consciously doing that then somewhere, someday, some birth, some life, whenever. So that's what I feel. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So here, what is so nice with integral yoga is that lower nature doesn't have to remain the lower nature. So first we, as Priyanka was sharing, yes, I am identifying right now with mind, life and body, like my thoughts, I identify with my feelings, these are my feelings, I am feeling this, my body, this is me. So there is identification at the level of mind, life and body, which in other words we can call the lower nature. And the quality that is very, one can say, uplifting with the integral yoga is that when I move to the higher, when now I identify more and more with the witnessing and then ascend up the stairs in my consciousness, and as if I am reaching out to some higher force above me and calling it for please help me, what happens is that there is a descent that happens. And this descent, like Ganga ki dhar coming from above to bottom, it transforms the lower nature. So that's the beauty, that the lower doesn't remain dirty, filthy, engaging and like not helpful. The lower also can get changed and must. In fact, integral yoga is about the lower getting changed. And that is why the process is, as you were sharing, a little bit long, that the full transformation happens. But as Sri Aurobindo mentions in several letters, and Mother again mentions again and again, that first this ascent has to happen, that you are dissatisfied with the way you live. So you call up to something higher, you try to ascend, you want to go away from the suffocating cages of thoughts and feelings, so that you get in touch with something higher, which is liberating, which is mukti like. And then that something higher, as a response to your call, descends. When it descends, it transforms the mind, it transforms the thoughts, feelings are transformed, and the body slowly also gets transformed. And before that complete process happens, as you were sharing, that it is good that we die, because what will we do with such a life which is all the time suffocating, limiting and engaged with asuric activity? Better that we die right now, so that in another attempt can be made where we again try to climb up the stairs. So yes, just wanted to add on that ascent has to first happen, that yes, there is a dissatisfying discontent with the present, and that something rises in us, and then the response, which Sri Aurobindo describes in the book The Mother, the little book that he shares, that both are important, ascent and the descent. Yeah, so let us just first go through, I think we have discussed like here and there around it, just we'll go through it the words again and see if something more is coming. So attacks of illness are attacks of the lower nature, and we have to know that the lower nature is just like in the evolutionary ladder, it is the lower nature. It's not about what we think that, oh, you are lower than me, not in that sense. Sri Aurobindo clarifies that. So it's just that in the evolutionary ladder, how from stony consciousness first life came, and then when life became more like proper, then mental beings came. So physical consciousness, lower consciousness, then came life, vital consciousness, flowers, animals, and then came mental consciousness, which is now the human being, for example. And so this is in that kind of a progress that we say lower nature. Nothing about you have 10% and I have 90% marks, nothing like that. So attacks of illness are attacks of the lower nature or the adverse forces taking advantage of some weakness, opening, or response in the nature. So as if like a magnet, we have already touched upon that, like I keep on pulling like a magnet all these negativities and vicious thinking and the suggestions that I give myself that ab meri bari hai bimar hone ki. So like that I create an opening. Like all other things that come and have to be thrown away, they come from outside. So slowly, as we become more and more alive with us, friends to us, mindful to us, we see that, oh, they're coming from outside. And I have a choice. I'm not a victim of these situations, I have a choice. If one can feel them so coming, and I'll be able to feel them when I'm not drunk with the senses, if one can feel them so coming and get the strength and habit kab aayegi? When it becomes a necessity for me, that I want to remain well. There is a life that is given to me and I want to take care of it, nurture it, and not wanting to engage in something which is harmful to me. So when that conviction happens in us, then we develop strength and habit to throw it away. कि नहीं चाहिए, ये भी नहीं चाहिए, नहीं चाहिए. I have something more powerful to engage myself in. So that is why I can discard them. Earlier I have nothing powerful, so I keep on inviting them in my ignorance. So if one can feel them so coming, get the strength and habit to throw them away before they can enter the body, then one can remain free from illness. Even when the attack seems to rise from within, that means only that it has not been detected before it entered the subconscious. So subtle suggestions from all our interactions in life, they keep coming, they keep like trickling into our being. सुबह किसी से बात हुई, उसने कुछ मेंशन किया, ये बुखार, ये बीमारी, आपको पता भी नहीं चला, and it just entered your being. So subtle suggestions keep on coming, and they enter our subconscious when I am not aware, because we are so lost in thoughts and feelings. So because of that scattered consciousness, it goes in, it trickles in like a drop of water into my being. And then in 1 day or 2 days, I am unwell, I am feeling sick. So mother says that if it has not been detected, then you will feel that as if it has arisen from within. बाहर से कुछ नहीं आया. Actually में वो आया बाहर से, but वो जब trickle in हो रहा था, वो मुझे पता नहीं लगा. I was drunk. So even when the attack seems to rise from within, that means only that it has not been detected before it entered the subconscious. तो उसके लिए तो आपको बहुत sensitive consciousness चाहिए, क्योंकि हमारी नहीं होती है, हमारी scattered होती है, dumb होती है. So when it becomes sensitive, when it becomes ingathered, then maybe when it is trickling in, that suggestion I can check it, but not before that. So once in the subconscious, the force that brought it rouses it from there sooner or later. चाहे 2 दिन में, चाहे 1 हफ्ते में, maybe 1 year it takes to rouse it. It can come to me. Any suggestion of fear, any suggestion of whatever that is there, it can invoke it, arouse it, and then it invades the system. When you feel it just after it has entered, It is because though it came direct and not through the subconscious, yet you could not detect it while it was still outside. So again, I have to take the onus that I am the one most of the times who has so many important things to attend to that I have no, one can say, interest or willingness, that I sit on the fence and guard my being, the mental being, the vital being, the physical being. There is nobody interested in it. I am interested in all the affairs of life, but not in myself. So when you feel it, it just after it has entered, it is because though it came direct and not through the subconscious, yet you could not detect it while it was still outside. Very often it arrives like that, forcing its way through the subtle vital envelope, which is our main armor of defense. We are not aware of this envelope. We are not aware. I'm not aware because I'm so engaged in the grosser senses. It's like a subtle fragrance around me. 24/7 it is there waiting, around the whole of your body. Imagine that there is a subtle, like wavy, waves like smoke like fragrance around you. But I am so lost in judging, interpreting about other people, about my life happening, that usko attend kare to kare kaun? So what it does is forces its way through the subtle vital envelope, which is our main armor of defense. And there is nobody who is taking care of that armor. It is there, but there is nobody to strengthen it. And we are right now just focusing on this passage. There are many bifurcations, but we are not right now going there. But it can be stopped there in the envelope itself before it penetrates the material body. How powerful, really. And when will I be able to do this? When I know that this is important for me than everything else which is happening in the world. And then we see, oh, now I see it. It's like, we may live in a house for 10 years, but we may never take care to notice what is the color of my walls in the bathroom. We may never notice it, but it is there. So it's like that, subtle vital envelope. It is 24/7 with me. It is poor fellow protecting me all the time. But I have no time. I'm so busy with all the things that I considered important. So then, when it forces its way inside, it has already come in. Mother says, as Taru was sharing in the beginning, that at so many levels the checks can be there. अच्छा तब नहीं पकड़ पाए, चलो अब कच कर लो. अच्छा अब नहीं कर पा रहे, चलो बात है ना. अच्छा पूरा फीवर निकल गया, पूरी बीमारी हो गई, चलो इन रेट्रोस्पेक्ट ही देख लो, कि हुआ क्या था. So at every level we can wake up if we choose to wake up. So then Mother says one may feel some effect, some feverishness, tendency to go, that you feel that something in us is not easy. Some uneasiness is there, some sickness is coming up maybe. Not fully it has arrived, but it is there. But there is not the full invasion of the malady. If it can be stopped earlier, or if the vital envelope of itself resists and remains strong, vigorous and intact, then there is no illness. The attack produces no physical effect and leaves no traces. So like on a sponge, a foot has stepped and then it goes away, the sponge is back to its normal shape again. So if at this level, even at the level of feeling a little uneasiness, feverishness, we can invoke whatever strengthens our confidence and vital envelope, Mother's name, any other divine name, maybe selfless service, whatever. For many people, it could be anything different. And actually, we can give ourselves suggestions. One person I knew, whenever he used to have fever, he would say, if I have a protein shake, I know I am going to get better. And every time with the protein shake, he would ward off his fever. So who knows what works, for each one of us. I can't even think of thinking about a protein shake when I'm feverish, but he could actually, drink a full glass of it. So whatever works for us to maintain this strength and the confidence of the vital envelope, that no, I want to be well and confident that I will be well. There are things that I will do when I'm well. So whatever, I'm just giving ideas. Yeah. So I think a very powerful paragraph, and today maybe we can stay with this, lots of things to reflect upon, and maybe take away home from this little paragraph, and maybe experiment in our life. When we are day to day, 24/7, we can experiment strengthening this envelope. Japa strengthens this envelope. This is, yeah. Yeah. So we can take any last comments, any suggestions, and then we can end today.
Yes, ma'am. You know, I was actually reading about parallel consciousness, and it is absolutely possible. But unlike the fort example that we were discussing about, my body being a fort can also communicate, right? So what I'm thinking is, if my body can communicate, if my body can demand of the being, or of the consciousness, that I need to be strong, I need to be in working condition, then I think it becomes, for me especially, I think it becomes easier to be vigilant and to have that parallel consciousness. Because I was going to ask you how it feels to have that consciousness, but then I was taken back to 2020 when the COVID pandemic hit. And I lost my, like, my company was shut down for 3 months, and I had no employment in that period of time. So I had to do odd jobs. The problem is that I used to live in a place where there was a 3-year-old and an 8-month-old, and outside people were dying because of COVID, and my job demanded that I have to be in the crowd. So, ma'am, I have never in my life been so conscious. Although I was working, I was eating, I was doing everything, I was very conscious, because I was scared that the moment I enter home, I might transmit any infection to those little ones in the house. And my day started with, I don't know how much, my hands would, like, what do you call that, my hands would become so dry, my and my face and all, because I was washing my hands, I was doing everything. Before entering the house, I had a setup outside the house and all that. Sometimes I wouldn't even come to the house, but I could feel every night, before I slept, I could feel my sinus, giving this kind of signal that something's going inside. And I would call for the mother, because it was a tough time. Like, I would say, mother, please help me out. And I'm going into the kitchen, those kids are around, please, 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 please protect them, please, please help me out, and don't let me. What happened is, ma'am, that um, in the crowd, in the friend circle, I was in a circle of 20 people. 19 of them got positive, tested positive. And I was, now here I am going outside doing all these things, and I was tested negative. I got tested like 5 times, and all negative. Then COVID was gone. Then what happened is, I was again back in my job. I was working from home, I wasn't leaving the house. And then I went to you know this happened for a while, and COVID went away. I went to India. I was again in my room, being I was lazy for a bit. Ma'am, sitting inside the room, I got tested positive. I had a doctor come in, like a nurse, and took my blood samples, and she said, "You have COVID positive." I was like, "How can this be possible?" Because there I was in Canada, I was going outside within these people, and now I'm just sitting in the house. Nobody even went outside the house, and sitting inside my room, I got tested positive. And then I didn't really think about it, but now I think that if I demand of my consciousness that I need to be strong, and to not only not when there is COVID or any flu outside, but 24 by 7, then it is absolutely possible. I was wondering how, and then I got an answer from the past. So just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. So it is possible. As you said, if we demand, then it is possible. Yes. Yes.
And just a last word that I just got reminded of the power of now. So by Eckhart Tolle, that book. And when you said that during COVID times, because you were all the time very conscious, living in that moment, that itself was awakening that power within you without you consciously being even aware of what you were doing, but being aware of that moment that I have to be, being vigilant on yourself. Your consciousness is all the time living in that moment. And that in itself is that power. So I guess the moment that is taken off, then we are kind of little complacent. Maybe, I don't know about you, but I'm just talking about my own life, that sometimes, when there is a challenge, I'm so into the moment, and you're trying to, just be there and be very vigilant, and then we become complacent sometimes in life. And then that is the time, that's, as Monica was saying, that we are not guarding, we are just, maybe chatting or having whatever, just as the guard would just walk away from the fence and do just whatever, maybe not doing the job. So just that, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Mother says very interesting, and I often remind myself of this again and again because this is a very slippery slope for all of us. Mother says that it's very interesting that people do all kinds of things to get well and be well in life. They may say, okay, I'm trying allopathy. Somebody may say, I'm trying naturopathy. Somebody may say, I'm trying my fitness workout regime, whatever. And then they say that then they are praying when they are not well, they are praying intensely that, okay, please, par lagao, take me through this, whatever is going on. And then she says that grace acts and take them through the whatever turmoil that they were going through. I will find the exact thing and I'll share it later. And then she says, but the problem is, then what do we say? I would say, if somebody asks me, who cured you? I would say homeopathy. But mother says that they forget that it was grace which they called that cured them. It may act through anything, it may act through homeopathy, naturopathy, allopathy, surgery. But we forget and we take it on ourselves that, oh, see, my discipline, if I was not so disciplined, I would not have ever cured myself. My sincerity. But we don't know that even sincerity, discipline, whatever, what is making it work? Grace. So that actually all the time I keep remembering this because it brings us back to ground. Because it's very easy to have the slippery slope and say that, see, I did it. So good to remind ourselves and keep ourselves grounded, knowing that even what the words that we are sharing, the intellect that we may have, the clarity, understanding, everything is an act of that grace. If not for that, nothing is possible.
Yeah, this is in Integral Health book only.
Acha, if
Ha,
you
ha,
if you
ha.
can share, you do share. No?
I will search it because I
Yeah.
was randomly reading it. So it is there. It is there. I just have to find that place.
ठीक है,
Yeah.
you'll share it on the group. Yeah, thank
ठीक
you.
है जी.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
thank you. So yes, so let's end. And before we end, we take a moment of silence just to share all, dedicate all the merit, clarity, benefits that we may have through collective understanding, sharing it with all the sentient beings. May our hearts be content, full, minds simple, restful, uncomplicated, and may we have lots of joy and progress and light in our lives. Thank you, everyone.